Welcome to Universe Unveiled, the podcast where we explore the mysteries that challenge our understanding of history and the universe. I'm Jacqueline.
And I'm Sarah. Today we have Headless Giant in the house. Headless has his own channel where he hosts his Magical Mailbag session on Thursdays with Nick from the Occult Rejects, and also the Sunday Trialogue with Ricardo and Ethan Indigo. Welcome, Headless Giant.
Thank you. So yeah, I try to expand other people's awareness of some of the things that are right in front of their faces, but they just never bothered to look into. And I think part of that is kind of understanding that the paranormal and the phenomena, whatever they call that stuff, that's been with us for thousands and thousands of years.
Right.
And it hasn't really changed all that much, except for the shape and the how you interact with these sort of beings and deities and these weird kind of interaction with nature, right? So I took a little bit about my research into that and brought it to the mailbag. So if you guys have any kind of occult or esoteric stories having to do with dreams or magical experiences, you could send them to the mailbag at HeadlessGiantPodcast@gmail.com. And we will read them on Thursdays. And we've made a lot of friends, a lot of different people who experience a lot of the symbology in their own life, a lot like your experiences, Sarah. And then we kind of, break it apart and see if we can examine it better and then, see how it connects to the rest of the world. So I'm a big believer in the trivium. I think that the trivium requires breaking subjects down, looking at all the parts, figuring out how they fit together, and then representing that to people so that they can kind of understand and make the changes that they might want to make in their own life when it comes to this stuff. So I think a lot of the symbolic world is not really well represented in the mainstream. So we've got to sort of recontextualize it, give people the tools that they can use in their own life to figure this stuff out. And since a lot of this stuff is occult and esoteric, there's a lot of sources and not a lot of good information out there. But, I think
Agreed.
we bring a lot of, nuanced perspective to this stuff that I think is missing mostly in culture.
Yeah, you guys recently did that, like where you both brought symbols and talked about it and presented them. I like that one. I think you should do more of those. Yeah.
Right. We do that every episode. We bring a symbol and then we talk about the symbol a little bit. We go back and forth on it. And then we get into the subjects. And I think the symbolic part is really interesting because a lot of people have interaction with these symbols in their dreams and they've never seen them before. We just had Winter York on and she was talking about her Green Man incident with this sort of sleep paralysis demon. Right. And
It was a
it
wild
kind of
story.
fits. Right. It kind of fits with the Green Man archetype,
It does.
and it's kind of strange, but I think this is sort of like that universal unconsciousness coming back to manifest over and over again. So you have to have a map.
Yeah.
And people are lacking a map.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I liked her story because when she was wrapping it up, like what happened to her literally changed her life, changed her personality. So, that's really significant for a person. So if you don't know what you're looking at and you don't understand how to dissect it, then how are you going to make the changes, right? How are you going to apply it or, not get freaked out by it at the very least? For sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of this stuff is really scary. I mean,
Yeah.
for the people going through it,
It
it's
can be.
terrifying.
Yeah.
And it's even more so when they don't have any of that ancestral knowledge that would apply to this kind of stuff, which gets passed down through family lineages, through oral history and folklore and all the rest of this stuff. And since we don't have those signposts, it becomes, almost impossible to deal with. So we try to shut it out, but that doesn't actually fix the problem,
True.
Right.
Shutting this stuff out doesn't actually fix it. I hate to say.
And you know what?
We try really hard.
Right.
I find
it will find you.
I find all this stuff like it gets over proliferated and thrown around like for clicks and likes. You know what I mean? So many channels have so much, especially now with AI generated stuff, there's so much like artwork and, memes and just photos and things that people post with a little quote with this or that. And it's so misrepresented that I think that like stuff like that, you have to be careful how you're repping it. If you don't know what it is, you should be you should at least try to find out what it is that you're repping before you go throwing it around, in my opinion.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think we live in the AI slop era, and the slop tides are rising. And the slop tides do not raise all ships. I think not all ships in this slop tide of AI crap are going to float. I think a lot of people are going to just sort of fall victim to that whole
Sure.
AI psychosis mentality.
Yep.
We see that happening right now. Like I take a look at AI and all the rest of the stuff as being a reflection of the human mind and the human condition, because we created it, and it's only
Mhm.
there to regurgitate what we put into it back to us in
Sure.
a way that kind of makes sense. But unfortunately, that's also the snake eating its own tail, you know?
Mhm.
Yep.
And when you're in that cycle of self-consumption of information, it doesn't lend itself to a lot of creativity. It doesn't lend itself to a lot of exploration, because you don't really need to be rigorous in your research. You could just AI slop it up,
For
you know?
sure. It's real easy.
Let the AI do the work, right?
It's real easy to get something out of
That's a
it,
big
right? You don't have to think
it's
anymore.
a big dummiting,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. We
So how long have you had your channel? Like, how long have you been doing this?
I've been doing this for about 2 years now, and, getting in the very first episode I did with Nick was about, this show called The OA
mm,
on,
look at
I love that
on
show.
Netflix. Yeah, it's great. And it's just there's so much water symbolism, there's so much death symbolism. It was very archetypal, going back to, talking about crossing the river Styx,
mm,
right?
Yes.
And back and forth between death and life, and having that symbolism is really important to understand, being mortals, but yet there's very few sources for how, this kind of stuff might be happening
mm.
with what we know about
Absolutely.
physics and consciousness and everything else now. So once you integrate that stuff, you can kind of see it better. But if
Yeah, I
not,
found I
go ahead.
found that early on in my journey, and I was just like I mean, it plays such a huge role in my own understanding of, what was happening because, as I explained on our episode on Nick's show, that like I just kind of fell backwards into all this. I didn't mean to find any of this stuff. It just found me one day. And so, I'm a lot like you. That's why I'm here, because I feel like we've lost something and we're so out of touch with it that we've been programmed to fear it.
Mm,
Exactly. So everything we don't understand is the devil or satanic or
mm,
evil, and it's not anything to fear. You definitely want to be careful with it, but it's not anything to be scared of. And I think we need to get back to that.
Right. So a really good example is when people have encounters with Bigfoot, right? So they'll talk about how terrifying it is, and they might even bring it up with their Native American friends or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, did he have a message for you?" It's a completely different way of looking at
yeah.
the
Yep.
situation that changes the entire context of it. So, we're freaked out, we're yelling, we're running, we've got emotions that are high when we're encountering these cryptids. And these people are like, no, they're messengers. They're here to tell you something about yourself. And
Mm,
both can be true at the same time. It can be very terrifying to get those messages about yourself in the form of this strange creature that sort of pops into existence in front of you.
yeah.
But
Especially that you didn't think was real at all. So, I
right.
mean,
But there's so many examples of that. We got ghosts, we've got UFOs, we've got
Sure.
orbs, we've got all this stuff that is just sort of in this mysterious, unknown category.
Mhm.
yep,
Yet, it's one of the most persistent forces in humanity going back to the very beginning.
Yeah.
definitely.
And it's documented for a long, long time, you know?
Right,
So
right.
it's hard to say. Like, it's not as though it's something that we came up with since we have cameras. Like, they used to paint that shit during the Renaissance. So, you know, like, people have been
Right.
saying, "Hey, look over here. Look at what I saw. You have to pay attention to this," for a long time. Yeah.
Well,
Well,
they
look
were
at these
chiseling it on
dogmen.
walls before they had words
Right.
for it. So, I mean,
Yeah.
Look at these dogmen encounters and what they have in Egypt with Anubis. Like,
Mhm.
these dog-headed figures keep popping up throughout history over and over again. And it's like, is there something more to this? Is this a spiritual phenomena? Is this a multidimensional phenomena? Like the cynocephaly, where apparently engaged in warfare for the Romans. Like they were actually mercenary troops with dog heads that they were documenting.
Yeah, the whole anthropomorphic representation in Egypt, like just out of nowhere. Like, you know what I mean? And it's so obvious in Egypt. Like they weren't just making that up. You know what I mean? That was real for them. So yeah. We love to downplay, don't we? We just love to downplay anything we don't understand. Yeah.
Well, that's a thing that I think a lot of modern people can't understand is that, you know, ancient people before the rise of, you know, Abrahamic religions were very pious as well. And so the stuff that you see as strange or whatever, that was central to their ideology. And there's no real appreciation of that. And I think one of the main examples that I go back to all the time is we don't talk about Canaanite Phoenician religion at all, right? So these people were supposed to disappear after the Punic Wars, and yet they had a massive impact on the way we do things today. Like we still use the base of the Phoenician alphabet as our alphabet, and that was given to the Greeks from this mythical character named Cadmus. And Cadmus was the bearer of these letters, this new way of doing things back then. And it changed how we view language and how we view ourselves. And Koine Greek is, you know, like one of these direct offshoots that became the common tongue. That's what Koine means, it's common. So back then it was kind of like English. You know, everybody kind of spoke Koine Greek in some regards, and then they spoke their own local dialects, and it was how they communicated across these things. It was like the first iteration of globalism after Alexander the Great went and conquered the world. So the Phoenician influence is right there everywhere the Greeks would go. You had that Phoenician influence, and Hebrew is also like the backwards Phoenician alphabet. And you know, you've also got the Roman letters, which were based off of the Greek in their own sort of way. And we still use the Roman letters to this day. So it's not hard to see how, you know, these influential societies could be influencing us in ways that we don't even realize.
Sure, because if you ask the average person, they'd have no idea where the alphabet come from. The average person might have some, you know, if you went to a college or university in the States, you might understand like, you know, phi beta sigma. You might get that, but most people would have no ability to tell you the root word, you know, comes from Latin, comes from this. Like they don't know those things anymore. It used to be more important to understand that. And now people, you know, you don't need to. You can ask AI. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. And when you give the machines complete control over your language, right, where you're no longer inputting your values and you're no longer putting in your beliefs and everything else, because you're just taking what the machine tells you is gospel truth, you're in for some shit. Because whoever's programming that,
that's the new God.
Yeah,
that's the new God, because they're handing down the law, right?
For real.
Yeah.
Right. And Cadmus himself, he was like a law bringer to the Greeks. And now we've got, you know, Sergey Brin, and we've got all of these big tech moguls as being the new transfer of knowledge to the masses. And we can already see how sketchy that is. I mean, really bad. Peter Thiel is making this documentary about the Antichrist now. I don't want to be lectured about religion from a guy like Peter Thiel. I mean, talk about a scumbag. The guy basically had his boyfriend thrown out of a window because he showed up at the wrong party at the wrong time.
Yeah.
And everybody knows it, and nobody's investigating. And that guy's going to now be lecturing you about your religion. So
yeah, that's scary.
Go figure. Maybe he thinks this is how we control people. You know, that's
seems logical.
That's his angle.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, you know, I want people to see these control freaks for what they are. And I don't think you're going to get a good indication of that without having a lot of history to back it up. And I think, you know, the inscrutable nature of how we got to this point in history, I don't think is as inscrutable as people maybe think it is, because if you think about how a nation would defend itself when they don't have armies, right? When you think about how maybe a religious idea could be a better control mechanism than a military one, winning hearts and minds, right? Wasn't that the goal of the Iraq invasion? Didn't play out too well, but the whole idea there is that maybe we have a kind of control system input into our society that maybe we celebrate. And if that's the way things go, you're going to be under complete control. And one of those things that I find over and over again is the Canaanite Phoenician influence in mind control, right? That was one of their big accomplishments, I think, is how to mind control slaves. Because the Carthage, for example, which just means new city, by the way, Carthage was one of these Canaanite Phoenician cities that represented the height of not only the slave trade, but also urbanization and melting pots. And it was the most modern city for the time. And this was established in 800 BC, and Carthage doesn't, after the Punic Wars, what happened to Carthage? Well, nobody cares, right? But we could see the influence of Carthage still to this day. And I think one of the major factors in that is some of the Carthaginian gods and goddesses that get no attention at all. So the first one I'd like to bring up is Tanit, right? So Tanit was a blending of Eastern religious figures like Ishtar and Astarte with the native Berber religious icons, and out popped Tanit. And Tanit was the chief deity of ancient Carthage. She is the consort of Baal Hamon. And we've all heard the term Baal before, right? Means Lord or Master, Baal Hamon. And this Hamon angle is Ammon from India, or from Egypt. And Ammon is kind of like this syncretism that survives to this day in words like amen, right? Where we're invoking the name of Amun, right, at the end of our prayers to this day, and nobody really has a good explanation for it. It's like, why are we still using that word? Well, it's just what we do.
We always have, don't you know?
Don't you know?
Right.
Indeed.
Here's where it comes through, because Baal Hamon was this Canaanite Phoenician deity. And that's why we say amen. We weren't saying that before. Baal Hamon was sort of backdoored into our society.
Right.
Kind of strange. But Baal Hamon was huge all over the Canaanite Phoenician world, but specifically in Tunisia, or, this area of Carthage, that was the consort specifically of this Tanit, which was very unique to the region.
Okay.
Tanit was also a goddess of rain, right? So fertility, rain, water, right? The names themselves, Baal Hamon and Tanit, have Berber origin. So this is North African tribal structure, right? Many feminine names begin with the T and N, right? So TNT, that would be kind of a Berber version of Tanit. Well, what does TNT do? But again, like some versions of the Canaanite Phoenician alphabet wouldn't use the vowels.
Okay.
So like Hebrew didn't have these vowel sounds. It was sort of just the consonants, and the vowels were implied.
Okay.
Right.
So you have a little bit of that going on with Berber North African as well. Tanit was worshipped in Punic context in the Western Mediterranean, in North Africa, Sicily, Malta, Gades, and many other places into Hellenic times, with Rome expanded into North Africa long after the fall of Carthage. They're not even talking about Spain. Why aren't they talking about Spain? Because again, nobody's investigating this stuff. But Cartagena in Spain just means Carthage. That's right across the Mediterranean from Carthage, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
All of these Spanish holdings prior to the Punic Wars was Carthage, right? We have names like McCarthy, which means son of Carthage.
Wow.
Nobody
Damn, it
knows
does,
this
doesn't it?
stuff. Right. It does. And they still celebrate Carthaginian holidays in Spain with the same kind of ceremonial masks that were used back in the days of the height of Carthage when they would do human sacrifices with these masks on their victims.
Yeah, but obviously now with with the Catholic influence.
The
Huh.
Catholic influence.
That was my diplomatic way of saying it.
Right. So let's look at the Punic Wars as being an indicator of a clash of civilizations between East and West, because that's where we find all of these major battles, right? So if we go back to the fall of Troy, right? You've got all of these Western tribe nations coming from Greece into Asia to get back Helena Troy, completely smashing the city. And then all of the survivors of Troy sail around Greece into Italy and start the Romans.
Right.
That's what the Romans believe about themselves. That's their mythical origin, is sort of in this Thracian mix, right? Because they were on the northern part of Anatolia right before there. But again, the Bosphorus River is that separation between East and West. And Canaanite Phoenicians are most certainly an Eastern version of empire versus the Western version of empire, like the Greeks and the Romans, right? So they had a lot more of that Eastern influence than Western influence, right? And a lot of what Carthage did was really out of step with the rest of the you know, Western world, which made them kind of a target for both Greece and Rome, you know? So let's see here. There's also like Carthaginian art styles are deceptively freaking simple, right? You look at this and you're like, well, that's some sort of hideous monster.
I'm
But
like,
at the
what am I
same
looking at?
time, right, this is also like a manifestation of a god with this sort of Egyptian style
Yes.
anthropomorphized head.
Yep.
And holding this cup and these weird
With
body
weird boobs.
Weird
Right.
boobs, yeah.
But yeah, so they always have this deceptively simple art style that kind of takes you by surprise, because once you start to dig into it, you start to see all of these little indications that something else is going on here. So this is also, again, like, this isn't the seal of Tanit. The seal of Tanit you see all over Carthage in the walkways, everything else, but this is more like, this is what they were producing in terms of art styles. Why did they have to go with the seal of Tanit, which is so deceptively freaking simple? This is the seal of Tanit. You see these all over the Toffets, right? So it's kind of like an Ankh.
Yeah, it's an
a little
Ankh.
bit, right?
Yeah.
A little bit. It's
I
kind of an
mean,
It's
Ankh.
like an Ankh plus that keyhole symbol you see
Yes.
everywhere.
Right. And right on top of there, with the sun
It looks
and the
like a sun
moon
disc
merged together,
to me. It's like,
that's
Yeah.
Baal Hamon.
mhm.
That's how they portrayed both of them together. Is Tanit would be the goddess underneath, and Baal Hamon is the one on top, sort of radiating rays of light down on Tanit, sort of like the all-seeing eye or the eye of providence. Very, very strong motif, which is what we see today in American symbology as well. And also, another one of these interesting factors about these Tanit Toffets is, if you look at the top, it kind of looks like a church, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So the temple tops to these Toffet indicators are very important. Now, these Toffets, they are kind of like burial stones, because this is where they would place these stones to indicate that there's sacrificed remains of human children
Okay.
inside this area, right? So Tanit is also the goddess of human sacrifice as well as fertility. And you could see that little tannet symbol there at the bottom.
Yeah,
Maybe I can
that's what I was just
zoom in.
looking at.
Right. And so these Tophet symbols were all over Carthage. All right, here's a Tophet. So this was where they would put all of the, remains of all of the things sacrificed to Baal-Hamon and Tanit. It's pretty gloomy, right? I mean,
Yeah.
kind of evil, kind of gloomy, but this is where they would shove all of those remains. Now, there were a lot of animal parts as well. They loved to sacrifice animals. And again, they could produce art like this, but they're choosing to use that seal. Again, this is another indicator of Tanit, and she would be holding, various sacrificial items in her hands. But yeah, with the practice of continuing until the early years of the Christian era. Right,
Oh,
400 BCE, 200 BCE, the practice continuing until the early Christian era. The urns contain the charred bones of newborns, and in some cases, the bones of fetuses and 2-year-olds.
Oh, wow.
Double remains have been interpreted to mean the cases of stillborn babies. The parents would sacrifice the youngest child. This could be with an account from Cleotarchus, the early 3rd century BCE historian of Alexander the Great, of sacrifices being made to compensate perceived divine intervention having already occurred for the worshippers. So they're doing this stuff for propitiation from their gods. Right? So they want stuff from their gods, so they sacrifice their children to these deities, kind of like Father Abraham was about to do before they stepped in and introduced circumcision. Now, the Canaanite Phoenicians are some of the only ones that carried on this circumcision tradition in their own society, which, Hebrew DNA is half Canaanite Phoenician DNA. So they're very closely related cousins. And they shared this sacrifice culture, right? They shared the idea of doing human sacrifice again and again and again and again. And the indication in the Bible is the reason they're making a polemic against human sacrifice. They're like, we will never pass our children over the flames of Baal, right? Why they're saying that is because they were widely known in the Mediterranean region for doing those things. And they wanted to distance themselves from those practices because it made everybody fucking hate them.
Sure.
They were despised for doing this stuff. And the Greeks mentioned it. The Romans mentioned it over and over again. They're like, they're sacrificing their own children. We have to go in there and stop this shit.
Yeah.
This is not going to fly.
It's messed up, right?
We can't have this in a civilized society. Right. Well, what's Yahweh doing to Jesus Christ, his only begotten son?
Well, well, yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. And what are we talking about here? So does sacrificing a chicken start your car? Does sacrificing a chicken help you read a book?
I feel like
So
it
what is
depends on who you
sacrifice
ask.
actually doing? Right. Right. But we didn't have this idea in the rest of the Mediterranean world. The Romans got away from human sacrifice 800 years before they stopped the practice in the Canaanite Phoenician world. The Greeks, Plato talked about how out of step and out of sync the Canaanite Phoenicians were in Carthage for doing this same kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And now this nation of priests has injected the idea of human sacrifice into the rest of these places that thought it was bad through the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Damn.
Right? What are we doing here?
What are we doing?
What are we doing? Jinx.
Yeah.
Right.
I legit never thought of it that way.
I know, because people don't think of the Canaanite Phoenicians as existing anymore. But one of the interesting parts is what they're referencing to this early Christian reference to human sacrifice is this guy named Tertullian. Now, Tertullian was a early Christian church father who introduced the concepts of heresy to Christianity and the doctrines of heresy and what you should do to heretics. Now, he was coming out of this Carthaginian context. He was from Carthage. And after introducing the concepts of heresy, he apostatized back to his native religion. So he just wanted to step in real quick and tell people how to deal with heretics, which is to kill them. And then he went back to his native religion.
Okay, peace.
Something in Carthage. But he was allowed to just sort of introduce this stuff because he was part of the project, right? He was part of the project. Now, he complained that these Romans kept accusing the early Christians of eating children and sacrificing babies.
Okay.
So that's what they're talking about in that early Christian period, is that Tertullian, this church father, for a minute, is talking about how annoying it is that these Romans keep accusing them of stuff that they do, right? Because the Christians were all Canaanite, Phoenician, Hebrews, right? That's what they were.
Yeah.
Well, they were still doing this stuff.
They were still up to it, yeah.
Right. And see, a lot of people don't understand how Christianity really spread throughout the Mediterranean. They think it was this conversion, mass conversion.
Right.
Like everybody just decided to join in. But by 480 BC, when or AD, when Theodosius introduced the Theodosian Code, which made Christianity mandatory, it was only about 5 to 7% of the population.
Right.
So they figured out a winning martial strategy, which is to start introducing slaves to this religion, right? Get them all circumcised up, get them fully engaged with Christianity, and then sell those slaves to these elite households. So that within 1 or 2 generations of these slaves raising these children, they're also going to have Christian beliefs as well. And so when Theodosius, one of these Christian children raised by these Canaanite Phoenician slaves, introduced these laws, the only 2 religions that were allowed in the Roman Empire anymore was Christianity and Judaism.
Interesting.
Why Judaism?
No.
Because they needed Judaism as kind of the witness for the end times. So they couldn't ban it because it says in the New Testament and in the Old Testament that you can't do anything to Jews as a, control mechanism. So you can't convert them to Christianity. You can't do any of that.
Right.
They have to be there to witness the end times, which I think is very convenient.
Yeah.
So everybody else has to get their heads chopped off if they don't follow Jesus Christ, except for this one group of people who invented these stories, and they don't want to worship Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's very
interesting. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
just more and more questions being born by the minute here.
Indeed.
And nobody ever talks about my favorite miracle.
Oh, do
you
tell.
guys have never
Do
heard
tell.
of this stuff before. 363 AD, the last pagan emperor for Rome decides he's going to rebuild the temple.
363.
And Jerusalem. So this is a guy named Julian the Apostate. Right? And Julian the Apostate is the last pagan emperor in Rome. And what he wants to do is rebuild Solomon's temple, which was destroyed in 70 AD, so that he can subvert Christianity. He doesn't want Rome to be Christian. He wants to put everybody back in the place where they were before 70 AD, because that's when Christianity really just took off all over the world as a military strategy. So he wanted to rebuild Solomon's temple and put them all back there and say, we're done with this stuff.
Right.
You can stay here. Well, guess what? There was a terrorist attack.
Oh, no.
From Yahweh.
Convenient.
So Emperor Julian the Apostate ordered the rebuilding of the Jewish temple in Jerusalem as part of his attempt to revive traditional religion and counter Christianity. but the project was aborted by a combination of factors, including major earthquake in the region and a fiery phenomena erupting from the site, which prevented progress.
Oh my
Julian's
goodness.
plan, which aimed to disprove Christian prophecies about the Third Temple's predominant destruction, ultimately failed and was never realized, with the project ceasing after his death in battle that same year. So he died that same year. He tried to rebuild the temple. Now you could say this was a deity that was coming down to make sure that Christianity took over the world. Or you could say a lot of the Christians working on the project wanted it to stop so that they could take over the world.
Right.
And they chalked up a plan. Yeah.
Right. So since this is the most amazing miracle of Christianity, you'd think they'd talk about it more.
Sure. You don't want to go looking into things too deeply, though.
No. So the rebuilding of Solomon's temple never happens, and he dies the exact same year that he tries to put this genie back in the bottle.
Right. Tries to subvert everything, and it all goes to hell. Yeah.
Right. So they call Judaism the nation of priests. If you're a nation of priests and you're under siege from a nation of soldiers that outnumbers you, outpowers you, how are you fighting back? The only way priests know how, inventing religion.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then we have the Dark Ages.
Yes. That's something.
Christianity put plumbing on the back foot for 1,000 years. So we lost plumbing for 1,000 years, and they're still like, we need to go back to that time when everybody was illiterate. And if you had a Bible, you got your head chopped off because you weren't allowed to read it.
Right.
What the hell?
What the hell?
Yeah.
Hell.
We just take all these factors in, and then we start comparing what the Canaanite Phoenician government structure was called, what they were doing. And you could see a lot of parallels between Canaanite Phoenician government in Carthage and what we have today in America. They called it an oligarchic republic.
Okay.
Where at the very top of society were the judges, right? Kind of like in the book of Judges, right? The very top of society is the judges. And then below them, you have these family members. They would be called the Sadducees in Hebrew. But over here, this was called the Senate.
Okay.
So the Senate was like all of the corporate leaders that came through these royal families. It was an oligarchy. It's always a motorcycle rally here.
It's probably nice weather too, right?
Oh, it's beautiful out
Yeah,
there. I've never seen an October like this.
Yeah, it's actually like 26 degrees outside right now where I am. So yeah, I'll take it.
I was cold outside this morning. Yeah, I will take it.
Yeah, 2 days ago was a little cold, but now we're getting that late summer. We'll take it because soon I'll be under a snowbank. So will you, actually, now that I know where you are.
I can't wait. I love the snow. I don't
mind. I like that. I like that hibernation period. Yeah, hunker down.
It's just gorgeous to me. Like, there's nothing more beautiful than being in a snowstorm. It's just
true.
I don't know.
Yeah,
like, that's how I connect to nature.
As long as you're cozy.
I dig so much of the snow.
Yeah. As long as you're
if
cozy
you don't like
in your
it,
nest.
what are you doing?
Yeah. You should move. Yeah.
But yeah, so these control mechanisms are introduced, and they're kind of used to subvert, right? So we've got the government of Carthage being made up of the judges, and then below them you've got the Senate, which is all these royal lineages or royal family lines that basically get to decide on all the trading and all of the,
like the VIPs,
because they were a sea empire,
right? Yeah,
they were a sea empire, so they needed all of these contracts to go through, so that they could have their trading network. And that's important too, because we kind of get all of our maritime law through the Canaanite Phoenician influence.
That makes sense.
Right? So corporate structure comes through them as well. So we've got corporatism, we've got religion. These two things are linked through something specifically like Carthage. Now, what's really interesting to me is that the founding mythology for both New York, or New Amsterdam as it was called, and Carthage share the same plot points, right? So in Carthage, you had this princess fleeing from, I think it was Tyre or Sidon, one of the two of the other Canaanite cities. She was fleeing because her brother was taking absolute power of one of these city-states. She gets all of her brother's spies on board her ship, and then she dumps their shit overboard and says, "You want my wealth? You want all that stuff? I'm going to dump it overboard, and I'm taking your spies with me." So she founds a nation with all of her brother's spies and her, without any money, in this plot of land in North Africa, right? Right on this Tunisian, like little peninsula. But it was a brilliant spot to be at, because this little peninsula that jutted out into the water had the perfect harbor for ships to come in and leave unseen. So what they built in this place was a massive, kind of like a turntable thing, where they had these walls up around the harbor. The ships would come into the harbor, and you couldn't see what was being put on or offloaded from the ships. So they had naval intelligence going on back then. And
Before it
naval
was even cool.
intelligence, right? Naval intelligence was the first form of intelligence in America, like before it was the CIA, before the OSS, before all that stuff. Even back to the Revolutionary War, naval intelligence was absolutely vital, because if you can't move your goods and services anywhere in the world, you're dead in the water. You've got to have that trade network.
Yep.
And once you've taken over that trade network, who can oppose you?
Right.
You know? So let's get our bloodlines in there. And below the bloodline seafaring class is the commoners. And the commoners had their own little house that would resolve any intractable differences between the judges and the corporations. So the tie went to the people. And you can see this in a lot of Canaanite Phoenician artwork that emphasizes the idea of chance. You can't have total control over your population. You have to introduce the idea of chance, and then that's the final arbiter. So in a lot of Canaanite Phoenician artwork, you see the dice being prominent. You know, the dice is like, chance has the final say, and we go with whatever that is. And you can kind of understand why that would be a benefit, because this problem, reaction, solution mentality that they have, give them 2 or 3 choices that we control.
Right.
Give them 4 choices that we control. When they roll the dice and pick one, we're still going to win.
Yeah.
That kind of conspiracy mentality.
Wait, are we talking about today? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because we have these elite classes of people. We have these bloodlines. But where do they all come from? Venetians? Are the Venetians were never the Phoenicians? Like Venice didn't have anything to do with Phoenicia. That's where we get all of our corporate law from.
Right.
And who was doing the corporate law before that? That was the Canaanite Phoenicians. So they just handed us more of this stuff. In addition to the alphabet, we also have that corporate law structure.
Right.
And the corporations are controlled by these family groups that all trace their lineage back to this part of the world. And now you kind of see it.
And the beat goes on.
And the beat goes on and on. Yeah.
Right. And so you've got also in America, they don't talk about this enough, is the idea of this Society of the Cincinnati. Right? Every president has been a member of the Society of the Cincinnati. If you had a ancestor in the Revolutionary War who was a officer, you're inducted into the Revolutionary War society that they called the Society of the Cincinnati. It was founded before the founding of America.
Okay.
And society members were all over the world. You had them in France. France was the other co-signer on this, official sort of secret society of America. And we see this French influence all over the United States. And we see it today, and we still don't understand what's going on between America and the French. It's like, what's the relationship here? What's going on? Is it the Normans? I would argue it's these family lines that come through the Canaanite Phoenician influence, because they were not exclusive when it came to their racial groupings, right? They just sort of kept the bloodline, and they could just sort of breed with whoever they wanted. They weren't into keeping it in the family, in other words.
Which is smart.
So, right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, think about it. So if you want to have Chinese bloodlines, you just send a couple of your families over there to interbreed with them. And then now you've got a Canaanite Phoenician hub started based off of the bloodlines in China.
Yes.
Nobody's the wiser. So it kind of makes
Right.
sense.
I think that in the long term, that is a much more successful approach. Just my
Definitely.
opinion. Yeah.
And on the topic of UFOs, how many generations would it take for an alien species to take over the world through hybrids? Like 3 generations?
3 to 5, I would say.
Yep.
Yeah.
Come on. We're there, you know? 1947 to the present. So if we ever had any connection with the UFOs, the aliens, they're probably in charge by now.
Damn.
Just
Damn.
Yeah.
Roll the dice.
We're just like, yeah.
We've got 4 choices.
or they took over thousands and thousands of years ago, and we don't actually know what we're looking at when we look into
we
another
have no
person's
clue
eyes.
whatsoever, right? Like, no clue.
Right.
It's already so deeply embedded that it's way above and around and below our heads. We can't see it. Yeah.
Right. Which, I call the Canaanite Phoenician Empire the invisible empire, because you have all of these bloodline organizations operating through secret societies.
It's
And
almost
as long
like
as you've got your hand on the wheel, nobody's the wiser.
it's almost like it's so obvious that it's deliberately suppressed, right? Like, don't look here.
It's obvious now.
Like, well, yes, now
but
that
we
you've laid it
we
out
get
for
all
me.
these narratives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody's looking at the Canaanite Phoenicians. Why would they? Do you know in the Bible when they're talking about the I gotta pull this up. You'll love this. So the men of renown, they talk about this in Genesis, the Genesis 6 with all of these giants and stuff.
Yeah,
the
yeah.
men of renown are sort of, well, if you look up the Canaanite Phoenician word for king, I'll look that up real quick. Malak,
Oh God.
meaning king or sovereign, monarch. So when you're doing those Moloch sacrifices, that's to Malak. You're doing the Moloch to Malak.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
MLK root that is shared with the Hebrew and other Semitic languages. Boom.
Mhm.
Oh, you're not seeing my screen. I need to, it's just like, here's the thing right there. I mean, anybody can look this up.
I need to put my specs on.
Now, also, they were considered men of renown.
Yeah,
right?
that
And
phrase.
So, right. So it's the same word.
MLK root.
Damn sure is.
Yeah. And it says the Hebrew name Abimelech, meaning father king, or my father is king, shows the use of this root in Canaanite concept Melchizedek, a king of Salem, Jerusalem, also used in this element of the name. Now, the priesthood of Melchizedek is the reason why Moses had the covenant with God, right? They became a constant. Now, the priesthood of Melchizedek were Syrian or Canaanite Phoenician, right? So Syrian, Lebanon,
Right.
the ones north of Israel, sort of became the inner priesthood order, the priesthood of Melchizedek, who also gave birth to Jesus. And it all comes through that MLK root, right? MLK root. So it's all about the rulers and how you serve the rulers. Baal, the masters, right? The rulers, the high men. And so they're kind of speaking out of both sides of their mouth in the Bible, because all of these things come through these linguistic roots, and yet they're putting out these polemics against the things as they're promoting the things. It doesn't make a lot of sense unless you look at it from the perspective of, this is how a nation of priests fights back against
Right.
a nation of soldiers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Damn.
They went with what they knew.
Damn.
How do you keep all this straight in your head?
Yeah.
If you start doing any Google searches on Canaanite Phoenician art, architecture, anything, it leads you back here. Again, it's really deceptively simple. Like, I could show you some early Canaanite Phoenician Christian artwork
Mhm.
where they're talking about these two donkeys, right? And the two donkeys in Hebrew times refer to Moses and Jesus, right? Because they're both riding donkeys into the Jerusalem.
Right.
And this donkey theme is found over and like, there's a talking donkey to Balaam, who's this magician guy, right? He's trying to betray Israel. And they've got this donkey showing up again and again and again. And the third son of Adam and Eve, the one that spawned all the rest of humanity, is named Set. Set. In Greek, it's Seth, but
Right.
it's the same word. It's just the translation. And Set is the Egyptian donkey-headed god.
Yeah.
And what's really kind of strange about that is, I'm going to pull this one up really quick. Have you ever guys ever heard of the Alexandremos graffito?
No.
No, sir. See, Sarah, I think the key to keeping it all straight in your head, and certainly a helping hand, is having an extensive research and background in understanding the symbols, right? Because it's so
Right.
it just goes from one era to the next to the next to the next. Like, they hide everything in plain sight using the symbols.
Well, here's a good example. So this was drawn, right? The Alexandremos graffito right here. This is drawn on a graffiti
Mhm.
artist did this in the 2nd century AD.
Okay.
And it says, in Latin, it says, Alexandremos worships this god. And you see Jesus as a donkey
Right.
on a cross. And he's got this strange Canaanite Phoenician donkey motif,
Weird.
right?
Where was this
And
found?
so this was in Rome.
Okay, yeah.
This is the first indication of Christianity hitting Rome, is this guy making a graffiti about this weirdo centurion worshiping Christianity.
Right.
And they put the donkey head on the thing. And it's like, why is there what is this donkey? It goes back to Set. They knew that this was a syncretism
Mhm.
of this Setian donkey character. They knew that. And they were pointing it out, and they thought it was funny
Right.
that this guy would fall for it.
Yeah. Rome and their
I don't
graffiti,
know.
eh?
Right. There's some really
Crazy.
good stuff.
There is
when it
some good
comes to
stuff
that.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me see. So
No, I'd never seen that.
they knew. And it just went away because, again, they kept working on the elites of that society. They kept trying to corrupt them using their slaves that they've brainwashed into the Christianity thing. And we start to see that, people were really first fascinated by this religion. It's like, well, what is this? What's going on here?
Sure.
And then the slaves started to do what's called iconoclasm, which is where they go around to the pagan temples and they start, bashing the idols, and nobody had seen anything like this before. It's like, are you just declaring war on these other gods? Aren't we all sort of polytheists? Don't we believe there's more than one? They weren't used to that. This was monotheism writ large, which means that there can only be one God, and we're going to destroy everything else. To this day, they're still pulling these idols, these statues, out of sewers,
Right.
because the priests who worked there saw the Christians coming and they wanted to make them safe.
Right. Hide them.
Right.
Wild.
So they hid
Wow.
him in caves and kept him away from. But this was a violent force sweeping across Europe, intent on destroying all of the ancestral gods that these Greeks and Romans had.
Mm.
And you can read that in the Bible itself. And so what they were hoping to do is by supplanting the native gods with this new Canaanite Phoenician structure that they were putting in, that they would default get the master status. You know, in the New Testament, it says slaves obey your master 5 times in lots of different ways, right? And it's reinforcing that concept in I believe it was the 1700s, they had the slave Bible where they took out the parts from the Israelites going to Egypt and coming out and freeing themselves from bondage.
Take out
And
that
they kept
part.
the rest of it.
Yeah,
They kept the rest of it because they knew that it worked.
it just gets worse and worse.
Yeah, it does. But I mean, you got to look at this stuff objectively because
Yep.
if they were doing basically an ancient form of MK Ultra brainwashing,
Right.
we should know about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, like sometimes I think that people put too much into like, oh, they wrote down the truth. What? Like, we don't do that now. What makes you think that they were doing it then? Like humans now versus, up to 5,000 years ago and everywhere in between, they're no different than we are right now. You know, they lie
Yep.
and they manipulate situations to make things go their way politically, religiously, financially. There's lots of motivators to make someone not tell the truth or to tell a false tale to, you know, skew the narrative. Of course they didn't write down the truth. Of course it was written in code. Of course, there was factors that were like changing the narrative from every direction, just as there are now. Probably worse because there was less people with access to information at that time. So the control would have been deeper and harder. You could literally just say whatever the hell you wanted, you know?
Well, I always ask this one simple question. Do you want to play Are You Smarter Than a 5th Century Athenian?
Do I want to play that? I give it a go.
But you'd probably be disappointed in yourself, right? So
Probably.
5th century BC, they were really fucking smart.
Sure.
Really fucking smart, capable people. If you think about Greece, they had more feast days than work days, and they still were able to build that
Yeah.
beautiful city that survives to this day.
Yeah. I'm envious.
So they were on a whole other level, and we need to go back to that style of learning, that style of education. And unless we do that, we're going to be stuck in the dumb age, right?
Oh, we're stuck in the dumb age. Like in 5 years,
Yeah.
nobody's going to have a job because it's going to be AI everything.
Or we take this time as we're being replaced to learn how our ancestors were able to overcome and adapt and become. So we've got a big, fork in the road here.
We
Do
do.
we submit to the dumb
We do.
age? Or do we resist and go back to our classical roots and kind of understand, explore, and expand our minds using the type of stuff that they were engaged with back then before it became intentionally erased from our memories?
Yeah. Well, we're already part of the resistance. I mean, look at all 3 of us. Like, that's exactly what we're doing here is we're all getting together to try and, look at things objectively and figure out what happened so we can figure out how the hell to avoid it a second time or a third. God knows how many
10th,
times we've done this
12th.
because everything's a cycle. So this is just what we know about. And that's what's so terrifying about it is that we know that we are just tipping the iceberg here.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, think about
Like how
it.
many lifetimes? Like, I always think about that. Like, I need 100 lifetimes to learn everything, to take the time to read all the books, to see all the things, to analyze. Like, there's never enough time to learn. I want all those feast days. I want all those days off so I can.
Me too.
I don't want to be working 4 or 5 days a week. I want those feast days. Yeah.
And it's so strange because, the slavery that we know of today was kind of introduced through, that Canaanite Phoenician influence, right? They had slaves in Athens who were just kind of like servants
Yeah.
that actually ran banks and had
Yes.
businesses and
Yes.
did all this stuff And it was like, to be a part of their society, you had to be kind of, let in through
Mhm.
people who owned you,
Yes.
sort of. And they owned your labor, but you still got a lot of it.
Right.
But they had to basically sponsor you in that
There
society.
was
So,
also, like, different tiers of slavery, like, different
right,
yeah.
right. So, if we were to apply that same model to what we live under today and actually compare ourselves to where we would fit in that slavery model, we're probably down lower on that list, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah. Yeah, we
they
are.
kind of kept that structure, but they, changed the perception of it
Right.
a lot.
The danger and, like, the tipping point, when I think about it in that context, the tipping point and the part that they hope that you don't realize is that there's so many more of us, right? And the danger for them is the moment that we realize that
collectively.
we're, like, down in the lower tiers of slavery, there's so many more of us. And, you know, so that lends to what Sarah was saying, like, if more of us are spending our free time in deciphering and education and, discovery of our past, then, maybe we have a hope in hell. Maybe we do. Yeah.
Right. Well, I think there's a mind expanding moment that anybody can achieve. And that's just by being open to nature and like
Mhm,
really start to look at the world around you and understand how it interacts, how, these seasons are changing, and start to identify the way that they change.
mhm.
And understanding the patterns of nature takes you out of mankind's narrative, you know,
A bit, yeah.
policing,
It
you
does.
know? And when you're actually seeing objectively how things work around you and the functions and the systems and start to apply it to your own life, you're gonna see something a little bit different from what you're presented.
Mhm.
And, there's a lot more hope for change than we actually understand because we live in a very well manicured reality. And it's been that way ever since they started mass media campaigns.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
It was always to get us into that mindset and push us in that direction, and we just sort of accept it. And generation after generation, we start to lose these words
Mhm.
that our ancestors used. Whether or not they banned them, they're still forgotten.
Yeah.
So, understanding those words and understanding how other people thought when they were freer, at least mentally, really gives us a leg up if we're willing to take it. It's an opportunity.
For sure.
It is. I like the fork in the road, because I feel exactly the same way, and, I've felt that way since all my magical experiences kicked off. I mean, everything hit me at one time, and I was like, "Guys, we gotta free ourselves, like, we have to get out of this."
Yeah.
And
Right?
and here we all sit fighting each other about bullshit that, like, we're not each other's enemy. We're all here to learn from each other, and we all have to do this together like a litmus test for humanity or something.
Yeah.
Well, we could do it all separately too. J
Yeah.
We just need tribal structures to make it happen, right? I mean, people used to be able to self-organize,
Mm.
and then it
Right.
seems after the church was introduced, they stopped the self-organizing tribal structures and they put it all inside of churchianity, and so the only way you got to know your neighbors was through the church, and the only way you got to, have contracts and all the rest of the stuff, everything was placed inside the church instead of, autonomous sort of family-based structure.
Right.
And we still had those autonomous family-based structures, but that was more exercised at the Masonic Hall
Yep.
as opposed to the church. And not everybody was invited to the Masonic Hall, right?
Right. That was exclusive.
Well, you had to
And in some
subject
sense, you
yourself
need
to
that,
it, right? Yeah.
right? But in some sense, you need that. So I think that the tribal system, the real tribal system of families and bloodlines and all the rest of that stuff, the stuff that actually works for us because we're planning out the future 2, 3 generations down the road,
Right.
that was sort of excluded from us. And they're like, we have this stuff for our people. And you may not know it, but you're not one of them.
Yep.
And it's better if you don't know it that way. But
Yeah.
that's really what we lost.
Yeah.
We don't really have that for ourselves. We just sort of go with the wind,
Go with
which
the
is
wind.
kind of strange.
It is
Right.
strange. And then, pass that method of living on to the next generation and the next and the next. Yeah. Hmm.
The power
So
of we just do it that way is just crazy to me.
Right.
We've always done it that way, and you just never question it, and they just keep doing it.
Mm.
but I mean, maybe we should think about, what it means to have like family compounds, multiple families getting together and saying, look, this is where our new mythology begins, right? We're starting on a path that recognizes the way of our ancestors, and we're starting it here. And we can do that anytime we want to. And Holy Land can be right under your feet.
Yeah.
It can,
Yeah.
but you have to be willing to identify these difficult to understand symbols, and you have to identify when spirit is actually talking to you, because it happens.
Yes.
And maybe
It
we should be
does.
commemorating and appreciating that, because even if it's a painful or scary process, it's leading us to self empowerment, self betterment.
Yeah.
And that's whether we defeat it or not, that's up to us.
Well,
You know,
just going back to what you said, any time a group of people get together and come together for a common goal, or at least at the very least a common direction, um they always do much better than, there's
right?
and as long as you can maintain your autonomy within that group of a common goal, that's the perfect scenario, as long as everyone's input. I mean, this is so idealistic, but that idea, like you were saying, of
Think about how idealistic it seemed in Athens when
sure,
they instituted the first democracy.
yes, yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
We're going to take all the power out of these, patriarchs' hands and put it in the hands of these idiots.
Yeah,
What are we thinking?
of the people, those people, yeah,
Mhm. Ew.
Right.
ew, people,
Peasants.
true,
And at the same time, their democracy system ended in a proxy war.
mm,
They were trying to sack the oracle at Delphi
yeah,
through a tribe that they had paid off to do so. And these are the 5 sacred wars that Philip of Macedon engaged in.
yeah,
Democracy ends in proxy war?
yeah,
What the fuck are we doing in Ukraine right now? And how much is it costing
yeah,
us?
no shit,
Right.
yeah,
Because think about it, in a democracy, none of the politicians want to take the blame for this shit. And so it's better to have other people fighting so that you don't have to have those losses directly felt by the families who have to vote you into power.
yeah. Well, in a democracy, no individual has to take the blame because it's everybody's fault, right?
Right.
Right.
It's a perfect setup. Yeah.
Right. So absolution versus responsibility.
Mhm.
And we're at that turning point again. I think that's kind of what the Charlie Kirk thing's all about, is that turning point of, are we going to keep falling into the same cycles that we've done over the past several years when there's a human sacrifice? When there's a human
Mm,
sacrifice, we run back to church. Weird.
that is
After
weird.
JFK, you think a lot of people ran back to the church and sort of had a revival?
Of course they did.
Definitely.
Of course they did.
And
Hmm.
there's a direct correlation between how many asses are in pews and how many pews go in asses, right? So if you want people to join the military, you get them back into church.
True.
You really do.
True.
And if you're going to have a war coming on, you've got to have that human sacrifice to kick off the process. There's a lot of reasons
Right.
why elite people would want to have a big, bloody display in front of everybody to traumatize them into doing something that's not in their interest.
Very
Yeah.
true.
That's the pattern.
We live in a weird world, y'all.
That we do.
Yeah.
Right. But we got to notice. And
All this
noticing is
continues
half the
until
battle.
we say stop.
Right.
Mhm. Sarah, don't forget to do the universal truth.
Yes. As our viewers know, we do a segment on our show called Universal Truth, where we get our guests to share a bit of wisdom with us. If they could share one thing, what you got for
What's
us?
your ultimate one-liner?
Water is conscious, and you're made of 98% water.
Oh,
Love it.
yeah, that's a goodie.
volume.
That's a goodie.
We always
So
end up
what do we
back at
do with
water.
that?
We do end up back at water, which I quite enjoy as a Pisces.
Well, I'm Aquarius, so I'm the water bearer.
See?
Watery air. Isn't it weird we're going into the age of Pisces and watery air is taking over everything? Like we're on Wi-Fi right now, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's watery air. It's moving in ripples
A little
and
bit.
frequencies over the sky. So we have a new religion. We just don't recognize that it's all of this wireless, everything being connected
Right.
everywhere.
Like, we literally have the greatest gift we've ever been given, and we're just fumbling around with it. You know? We are completely fumbling around with it. Yeah.
We were meant to,
Sure.
it's meant to be this massive confusion. There's nobody leading from the top. I mean, does anybody believe that Donald Trump runs anything anymore? I mean, he's
Mm.
just there to entertain people. I mean,
I'll give them
theater
that.
is the
I'll
first
give them
church.
that. Yeah,
It is entertaining.
indeed. Definitely.
I got another universal truth.
Give it.
Theater is the first church.
Yes,
It is.
it is. Hey, look over
That's why
here.
right?
I may even like that one better than the first one.
Yeah. Hey, look at this.
We,
Look at this
you got to
miracle.
program that water.
Yeah.
Right. You got to program the water inside of everybody. You got to program that
Mhm.
consciousness. So you got to get them inside
Right.
that church.
You have to give them a vibration to attune themselves to. Yeah.
Positive or negative, that same reaction is occurring. So.
Yeah. And it seems so much more romantic to do it that way than to actually put strings on people. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, for
Keeps
sure.
everyone's hands clean there.
Yeah.
Any of these things that can be used for evil can be used for good, and in accordance with all of the consent needed. It's just people need to realize that exists, and we can do it ourselves instead of having somebody else point at us and make that our goals, which are not our goals. We got to think about our interests.
Mhm.
I think that's something that I want to leave everybody with is think about your interests and how it aligns with the people around you. Make it happen.
Yeah. Hang out with people that have similar interests. There's a thought. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seek those
Find your
people out.
purpose.
Find a friend, people. Find a friend.
And y'all take over the world together. Literally.
Yeah.
So I have a question. Why dreams? I know you do the magical mailbag with the dreams. What's your relationship with dreams there? What's the story behind that?
Well, dreams are the birth of symbol,
Mhm.
right? Everything you do in dreams is a symbol, right? It's symbolic
Definitely.
of what you're doing while you're awake, but you're not actually doing it because you're asleep. So everything in the dream world is a symbol. This is where we get so much of our understanding of ourselves from, is from these dream world symbols. So if that's the origin of the symbolic world, then I think it's very important to delve into.
Sure.
I do too. And that was one of the first things I did when I woke up, so to speak, because dreams were one of the things that got my attention. I mean, that was the thing that got my attention. So, I mean, I love that you're literally out here farming people's dreams. Like, wasn't that on the OA on the second season where the lady was farming the dreams to see what everyone was dreaming about? Was that the OA?
Right. I think in the second season they had all these bodies that were in these pools that had these like strange plants growing from their heads, and like that was the fuel to pass over into these other dimensions.
Yeah. Wasn't there
But
this
yeah, they were
lady
kind of being
though?
farmed.
Yeah, farming dreams for symbolism. That was what was happening. Like you were
Well,
saying, everything can be used for good and for evil, but like we're trying to use it for good here, you know?
well, they were farming the deaths of these kids over and over again in the first season for these symbols that they were telling to this guy as this sort of dance that allowed them to
Yeah.
pass between worlds.
Yeah.
Fight for
That's
the
kind of
keys.
dark.
Yeah.
How many times in history has that actually happened?
Mm.
Because if you've got total power, why wouldn't you try to
Yeah.
establish these keys, right?
Try is the key word.
What's the most interesting submission to mailbag that you've come in, like to you, that you've come
Well,
across?
personally, based off of the name itself, is we had a guy who was a letter carrier, also a truck driver, and he said that he was listening to his podcast or whatever, and when he got close to this one mailbag, his iPod just completely shorted out, like wasn't on anymore. He would turn it back on. And every time he'd come close to this one bag, it would short out again. It would change his songs and shuffle
Oh,
up
wild.
his playlists and stuff. And he was looking through the bag and he found that there was human remains in
Oh.
that bag that were being sent through the mail. So
Oh.
it's a literal haunted mailbag that he sent in
Shit.
to Headless's Magical Mailbag.
That's amazing. Yeah. Yeah. I see what you did there. It's a good one.
Yeah, he wins.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be a cool story.
First you
Somebody's
have the
getting in
motorcycle
trouble.
rally, then you have the cops going after the motorcycle rally.
Yeah.
Naturally.
Yeah.
Right. This is a great episode. Thank you for having me on. I love your show. I listen to all the episodes.
Well, thank you
Keep them
kindly.
coming.
Yeah,
We
I know you were
appreciate
an
that.
actual listener, so that was surprising.
Yeah.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
Well, it has been a blast. We've learned a lot. I've got plenty to research now too.
Yes.
And if you will, let everyone know where they can find you and what days you do your specials on.
All right. Yeah, you can find me on X at the Headless Giant. I'm also on Instagram. That's where a lot of you people send me a lot of mail, and it's like I'm barely even over there. I get it. I get to get into that more. But also, you can find me on YouTube at the Headless Giant. And I do streaming on Thursdays and Sundays for the Trialogue on Sunday with Ricardo, the Podfather, and Ethan Indigo. And those are always fun. And on Thursdays, if you send those emails to me, me and Nick will read them for you and break them down with our symbolic analysis. So
I got
it's
a
good
goodie.
times.
I got a goodie in the bank that I'm waiting to see. I got to formulate the story and send it in. Yeah.
I have a whole journal that I'm thinking about just going through and like,
Copy paste.
yeah, like, well, because I mean, I've been trying to interpret my own journey here for a long time. So,
Mhm.
like, it'd be cool just to get some, like, just some random interpretations
Sure.
and a different perspective on it all. And I mean, I like listening to everyone else's dreams because, like we were talking about farming dreams, like, there's a lot to be said. And sometimes that does come through other people's dreams and finds its way onto your TV screen and makes some things make sense for you and your journey. So,
Yeah.
Where does magic come from? Well, that's another good thing. Is like, what's really the definition of magic?
yeah.
I think I've got a good one, but it's not really talked about. You got to make all of the forms of magic work with it, right? If you're going to make a good definition, it has to be universal
True.
for everything that can be called magic. So I think magic is an illusion used to influence reality.
I like that.
That is good. That is good.
Every word we use is kind of an illusion.
Yes. I am big on that
Yeah.
because I have an English background. So I try to always remember that as you speak, you are spelling. And I don't think
Definitely.
enough emphasis is placed on that. I think that if people really thought deeply about that they would perhaps change the way they speak. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But even stage magic, the guy is doing a trick to create amazement. And amazement is a physical change
Sure.
in consciousness in a person.
Yeah.
Right?
Especially if there's a collective of people watching at the same time, right?
Right.
So think of a concert, and that's a whole other thing we could get into.
It goes right back to the theater.
Invite
being that
people to
first
your
connect.
ritual and you will gain their energy. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. For sure.
So
Exactly.
Yeah.
these
Jacqueline.
ill-defined things, they're everywhere. You just
Yes.
gotta.
For sure.
Go ahead.
Just got to open your eyes and notice.
Yes, Sarah. What can I do for you, Dolly?
Will you tell the people where they can find Universe Unveiled?
I will, absolutely. Of course.
Can you remember them all?
Of course I can. We are on X, and of course we're on YouTube, but you can also find us on Instagram, Rumble, Spreaker, and Ain't that everything? Facebook.
Spotify,
Spotify and
Facebook.
Facebook. Yeah. So
Do we have a
wherever.
Rumble?
We do have a Rumble. I send you the link
We
every
don't ever
week.
talk about that.
I stick it up on
Exciting.
Rumble after I put it on Spotify. Yeah.
Well, we do a new episode every other Wednesday, and we also do a short news segment every Sunday at 11:11 to keep you in the know.
Boom.
So be sure to check that out. And this has been another episode of Universe Unveiled.
Presented by the Institute for Natural Philosophy. So make sure to check out the
That
website
part.
there. Also, check the link below in the description, and you can help support the show through our merch store or buy me a coffee. Yeah.
That's right.
So thank you so much. It's so great to finally
Thank you,
have
Headless,
you.
for coming on today.
Yes. Yeah.
Been a long time coming.
It's been a while coming.
Yep.
And yeah, it was a good one. There's lots of good things there. I'm a side quest collector, so I got lots of things to go look up now.
I know,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Well, it seems like the Canaanite Phoenician rabbit hole is one that never ends, but more eyes on that, the better.
Yeah, I'm
Just-
gonna go
just
look.
quick
Absolutely.
Google search, and it's very deceptively simple.
Yeah.
Just tie those links together, and you'll see it. A
Yeah.
lot of what we have in our art and architecture is representational of the soul,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So getting into art and architecture is very
Yeah, I'm a big art
endearing.
fanatic. I do a lot of looking at art and reading about artists, where they come from, who funded them, who asked them, who commissioned them. It's very symbolic.
It's all there in the art if you know what you're looking
That's
for.
right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much, Headless. It's been a blast. Thank you, Dolly.
Thank you.
And
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
bye.